We didn't get to fish today. Your Oklahoma weather didn't turn out too good.
Well, JR, you just got to get a little bit tougher.
I'd have went if I had other obligations, you know.
Yeah. Your son, Daniel, and I agree on one thing, that tough in the dictionary is right next to crazy.
Yeah, I'd rather be crazy and tough than at home doing nothing. Hey, what'd you think about all these new electronics out there today for fishing?
Well, you know, JR, I've been fishing for 50 years, mainly crappie, other species too, and I've never been a big electronics person. You know, I just, you know, nothing has ever impressed me. I mean, I've got it on the boat because I use it for depth and water temperature, that sort of
I
thing.
know the first time I come out and went fishing with you, I get in your boat and all I've got to look at is a little old hummingbird, one of the originals.
Well, it does the trick. It
That
tells you-
everything's fish symbols.
It tells you how deep the water is. And anyway, you know, over the years I fished with you for a lot of years, and you know, I never was real super impressed with electronics of anybody's. You know, the down imaging, the side imaging, the what do they call that, panoptics. I never was too impressed with it until I went with you a few days ago, and you were using that livescope. That was the most unbelievable electronics I'd ever seen.
Well, I tell you what, it's definitely going to revolutionize the tournament fishing.
Oh, yes, yes,
I mean, it's got its pros and cons. It's probably, to me, more pros than cons, but the worst thing about it is if you like to fish with your buddies, you know, whoever's running, the way we've got mine mounted, you know, on the trolling motor.
Right.
Well, it turns with the trolling motor.
Right,
and it's
right.
pinpoint precise, so if the guy fishing next to you don't realize where you're going to have to turn that trolling motor to, you know, in the wind or whatever, then he doesn't know if he's on the fish. To where the guy running it has the best advantage because he always knows where he's going and where to look.
Exactly.
But it's still an unbelievable tool for the fact that you know even what level you need to be fishing, where the active fish are.
Even me being a 100% novice, never using one before in my life, I could actually, you know, not even knowing where the trolling motor was pointed, I'd look at it occasionally, but I was able to see my jig go down. I could stop it, let it down, move it up,
You know you want to be at.
and I could actually put that jig right next to that fish.
Yep.
I'd see the fish, and that is unbelievable.
Well, Rick, of course, it's February. I mean, it's the end of February, and for the last few weeks, I've only had mine, I guess, for 3 or 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
But it's been cold water, and of course, fish are always slow and lethargic in cold water. But it's been an unbelievable tool because you see those fish out there, and you have to hold it on them and hold it on them and hold it on them. And finally, maybe they'll either bite or they won't. But that's not going to be so important when the water warms up. Just like yesterday morning, you know, they were on an active, I told you, before you guys joined me. And I was pitching out to them and watching it come past them. And they were chasing it back. And every once in a while, they'd even just, before it got away, they'd shoot out there and grab it. And I could see all that on the panoptics. So I knew then that I didn't need to worry about getting as close to them as I needed to. I could just pitch out there and watch them, and I wouldn't have to get quite as close. That is probably one thing that's, if the fish aren't feeding real active and live, sometimes you spook them because, you know, after you guys joined me,
well,
the front came through and they got a little skittish, and before I'd get up to a lot of them, they'd swim off.
And it was cool. I watched you, you know, I watched your jig drop down, right, there was a fish there, and you held it right above him, and I could see him come up and take that. And I was watching you pull the rod up, and I could see this fish in the water on the live scope doing this. But also, one thing I noticed there, as soon as you caught him, all them other fish just
Scattered.
Doom. Yeah.
And Rick, I've had several times in the last couple of weeks that I've been on fish and holding it there and holding it, and then I think, well, I'll drop down past him, and I've actually touched the fish, and he goes, phew!
Yeah.
Shoots out of there. So, I mean,
Scary. Well, JR, what do you think it will be like during the spawn when they, you know, are nesting and so forth? What do you think that live scope is going to do then?
well, I don't know that you'll necessarily need it as bad then, but at the same time, you're still going to be able to pinpoint where those fish are.
Fish are.
Now, I think it'll be better for me in my part of the country in Missouri because our fish spawn a little deeper. But yours may be right up on the bank to
They
where
will be.
you're not going to be able to get up there with them and see them anyway.
will
It'll be harder to see them when they're right on the bank.
Well, tell me again. You were mentioning earlier the difference between the wide angle and the narrow beam on that
Well,
live
I don't.
scope?
I just heard the other day a guy called me and said that he thinks that they're coming out with this live scope, Garmin live scope, that's going to have an option of a little bit wider angle.
Uh-huh.
Because you notice right now, and I like it this way. I have to turn very slow and precise to see when that
Right.
when that echo of that fish is the brightest. I'll know I'm right on him.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll notice sometimes you put your jig down beside him and it's not real bright. You turn it and you see your jig brighten up. Well, that way you need to know you need to move your jig toward the fish.
Gotcha.
I think with a wider angle, it may work a little better for the guys that use a lot of multiple rods, like with spider rigging or bobber fishing, even where you may see more fish out there and you've got
Right.
more targets to hit.
More well, that
But for me personally, right now, because I'm just personally don't spider rig. I just fish for the fun of it right
Right.
now. But I think I like the pinpoint precise.
Well, what do you think about, there's going to be a lot of people that see this, and, for somebody that has never used electronics before, and let's say he goes in, he wants to get set up on this live scope. How difficult is that going to be for him, never knowing anything about locators? How long is it going to take him to get familiar with this?
I don't think it's too long, Rick, because there's a lot of information out there now on the internet, YouTube videos and this and that.
Yeah.
But also there are also guys that will take people if they want to and give them a half-day trip or a day trip and really focus on learning electronics. And I'm going to do that again, Rick. I'm going to start guiding again maybe a little bit.
I thought the same thing. If Garmin had more people like you out there teaching people how to use this, that's really the whole key is get somebody out there and show them the basics,
Right.
how this thing works, and turns on, turns off.
Well, if I didn't have buddies that already knew about them and had seen about them, I wouldn't think that much about, because you're looking at a pretty good investment for this equipment.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, like mine, what I've got on mine would have been about $2,300 for the set.
Right.
I wouldn't hesitate at all if I didn't know anything about it to pay somebody $300-400 for a day to take me out there and show me how to use it, so I was ready to go the next day.
That was my next question. How do you think that will be on a guidebook, let's say? Since, like if you go on a guided trip, a lot of times I know you get 4 or 5 people on that boat. So how's everybody gonna?
Well, I may just do more like trophy trips, especially if I
Okay.
go on Truman Lake or come out. I may just kind of concentrate on the big fish, which you can do with this. You
Uh-huh.
can tell the size of your fish out there a lot of times with what you're looking at. But as far as for like guides using it, I think it would help us the most by, number one, you're going to be able to see where the active fish are.
Right.
You can see how those fish react to what you're using. And I've seen that many times. I may have one color of jig down there and they'll just sit there and look at it and look at it and look at it and never take it. I may switch to a totally different color jig and I start catching them. You saw me do that yesterday.
I saw you do that. Yes, I did.
And that's a tool that's going to help anybody in the boat, because then the guy watching, seeing how they're acting, is going to tell everybody how to adjust their fishing pattern.
Gotcha.
So
I also, and like I mentioned earlier, I've been fishing for 50 years, and you've been probably
close to that.
close to that. And, traditional fishing is definitely changing, especially for crappie. It's like, I was fishing and I might catch one and to your 6 or 7 or 8,
Yeah.
because you were up there. I was traditionally fishing and occasionally catching a fish, but with your live scope, I mean, you were just bringing them in one right after the other, and they were nice fish.
And I'll give you another example. After you guys left me yesterday, I went out into the mouth of that other little creek out there, and kind of worked in through there with my side scan, my side view, and my down view. And Rick, I didn't see any fish, and I'm thinking, well, boy, they must not be here. And I went on a little bit farther, and I thought, well, you know what? This is kind of the same kind of water I've been finding them in. I think I'll look. I really did. I think I'll look a little closer because I'm going in anyway.
Right.
So I got up front and put the trolling motor down with the live scope, and I started seeing fish just stuck real tight to the trees.
Mhm.
I caught 4 or 5s, and then I just loaded up and come in. But that proved to me that I caught 4 or 5 more fish yesterday than I would have, because I didn't see them on my side and my down.
Exactly.
So it's a heck of a tool. And
That's why I've tried to, I watched the side and the down, and I just never was impressed with it. I mean, because I really couldn't make it out. I couldn't figure out what was going on. But with this live scope, I mean, it doesn't take 5 minutes and you got this thing figured out.
Yep, it's a heck of a deal.
And I never in my life dreamed that I'd be able to watch my jig go down
I know it.
and stop it, move it, relocate it. That was
What about when you saw all those bigger fish that we think are buffalo and stuff? Wasn't it amazing when they'd turn and you could see their tail fins, sometimes you could see their top fins, sometimes you could see their side fins as they turned.
yeah.
I mean, that's amazing technology to have on the front of a boat in muddy water.
Yeah, and it could have been, they were definitely bigger fish. They were some big blops on there, and they probably were buffalo.
But like when I caught that hybrid yesterday, what was probably 8 pounds?
Yeah, nice fish.
I saw a spot on that live scope, but it looked like a crappie stuck to the side of one of the bigger trees.
Okay.
It just looked like there was a crappie
Hanging out there.
And when I dropped the jig down there, all of a sudden that spot just moved out and boom, the fight was on. I didn't see it was a big fish. He was hiding behind the stump, but I saw his nose and he come out and grabbed him.
That was a one nice
But yeah,
fish.
it's a lot of fun with it. It's like playing a video game.
It is, yeah.
I know Yucca boys like to go up to the shop and play Pac-Man. I'd rather play a video game on my boat.
And it is. It's like any video game, though. I'm not a big gamer, but I do play sometimes. And, it's like the more you play it, the better you get.
Yep.
And
it's a lot. I learn something with it every time out. Like I say, I've had it 3 or 4 weeks now. And a lot of days I can't wait to get back out and just go look at new water to see what I can find.
yeah, to see what's.
But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun.